Hello friends, today in this tutorial I will be showing you the different kinds of bindings and interpolation inside Angular. So we will be looking at a very basic example. You will see a button will be there here. If I load this application, the counter value is 0 and we have a button out there which says increment counter. If I click this button, you will see the counter value will change here and this will update the value inside the Angular user interface. And we also have an input field out there, guys. As I load the application, you will see the value of the input field will be John Williamson, and the value is also showing here. The username is John Williamson. So now if I change this value, you will see that this is double data binding here. As I am changing the value inside the input field, the value is also reflecting back inside the browser itself. So this is called as two-way data binding inside Angular. Now if I write something here, you can see that. And also I will be showing you a function which will automatically occur whenever I write something here, Kane. This validation function will occur here automatically inside the alert box. It will say username already taken. So you can even basically also validate your user forms inside your Angular using this two-way data binding that I will show you in this tutorial. So a lot of beginner concepts will be covered inside this video. All the source code that I will use inside this video, guys, is given in the description of the video. I have written a complete blog post step by step covering all these topics. So now let's start the tutorial. So the very first thing you need to do, guys, you need to create a brand new Angular 14 application. I have already created this. Let me just start from scratch. This is my application, Angular application. Let me delete that code also. And for this application, guys, you will need Angular Forms module. So just go to your app.modules.ts file. Right here, you just need to import the forms module. So it simply imports the form module from @Angular Forms. So I have just imports inside this array here, forms module. That's all. And now after inside your app.component or HTML, guys, we will first of all look what is interpolation. Interpolation is nothing but, guys, whatever I declare a variable, let's suppose I declare a name variable, I give a value to it, Kane Williamson. I give the value, I have declared a variable. Now if I want to print this value, there are two ways by which we can do that. The very first way is interpolation way. We basically have a paragraph, the name is, and then basically you have seen this double curly brackets. This is called as interpolation inside Angular. You put the variable name that you have declared here, which is inside this name. So we are basically embedding the name here inside double curly brackets. So if you now see the result here, the name is Kane Williamson. This is called as interpolation inside Angular. So this is used if you want to display any sort of value. It can even be an array as well. Let's suppose I want to declare an array. It can have as many values as you want. Trent, Devon. It can be numbers as well. Let's suppose I have numbers as well here, and 3 values are there. Now if I want to display it, basically what you can see, Trent Bolt, Devon Conway, 15. So we are displaying this is basically a array here. This can even be an object. Let's suppose I change it to an object here. It will have 3 properties, Kane. It can have a age property and a country property as well. So interpolation is very powerful, guys. It can handle any string data type. Basically this is basically show the object. Now to access the property, it's very simple. We put here name comma name. As this is an object, so we just need to, if I change this to user here, so I will change it user dot name. So dot syntax, if you want to access the object property, you will see Kane Williamson. If I want to access the age property, I will write user dot age. You will now see 15. So in this way, guys, you can access any property of an object. As I already showed you, this is called as interpolation, by which you can access individual properties, variables, arrays, objects, and you can display it inside your HTML, inside Angular application. Now we will move to the second part, guys, which is called as bindings, property bindings. Bindings are nothing but, guys, let's suppose if I have a let's suppose I have an input field where I can write something. So here we can write something here. You can see that. Let's suppose I want to give an initial value to it. Let's suppose I want to give an initial value to it. Whenever I load the page, I want some text to be written here inside this. So here I can add basically a square bracket, which the brackets which I use for array. So inside this we can provide a name parameter here, any kind of variable that you can provide here, and this I will give user dot name. So we are instantiating to a value user dot name. So this value will be Kane Williamson. So if I load the page here, so what will happen? I think, let me delete that. I declare a new variable called as name, and I give a value to it, Ross Taylor. So I give a value here. You can see that I have given the name value and we have declared this. Let me change this value to a name. So what will happen, guys? Let me see. Just wait, guys. I'm just seeing here what is happening here. Property user doesn't exist on type. User doesn't. Oh, sorry. Let me delete that for a second. So now if you see, right, oh, I'm making a mistake here. This needs to be value, because in input type elements you will see that as I load the page here, Ross Taylor is already written here. So now we can manipulate some more values here. So this is similar to the value property, guys. If you see inside your HTML documents, if you create basically this is equivalent to this one, this syntax, where you provide the initial value. So this you write inside normal HTML. So this is translated to Angular. We write inside square brackets. This is called as binding, because we are binding a variable here, which I declared inside our class component here, which is this one, to the HTML. So this is called as binding, property binding, because we have provided a certain amount of property. This can even be a placeholder, any sort of attribute you can take, guys. So now what will happen? This is a placeholder. If you see, this is placeholder. You can see that, and it can even be any sort of attribute you can take here. Let's suppose you minimum length, any sort of attribute, valid attribute that it provide. We can have minimum length of 5 characters. You can even give value here also, static value. So you should write here minimum 5 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is called as property binding. And now I will be basically showing, guys, how to initialize a on click to the button. So let's suppose I have a button here of increment counter. So we have a button, guys. You will see, if I need to initialize a on click to it, here we just need to write here parentheses. Inside the parentheses you will give the click event handler. So here we will give the event handler click. So whenever we click the button, what should happen? We just need to increment the value of the counter variable. We will call this function increment counter, and also at the very top we will declare the value of counter. So here you will say the value of counter. Inside we will again use the interpolation concept inside double curly brackets. So here inside our TypeScript file, guys, we will declare the counter variable to be 0. So what should happen, guys? You will see it is saying that function is not defined. Now we need to define this function, which is increment counter. So what this function will do, guys, increment counter, we will simply inside this, we will say this dot counter plus is equal to 1. So every time when you hit that button, this value of counter will be incremented by 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I now click that, you can see that the value of the counter variable is incrementing every time when I clicking this button. This is basically the event handling inside Angular, guys, how we basically handle events. This event can be anything, but we are taken the very simple example of a click event. So every event, let's suppose on change You can basically check all the events which are there, but we have shown the very basic event. And now I will be showing you guys the two-way data binding, which is very important concept inside Angular. Two-way data binding. So again, for that we will have an input field where we will enter the name. So here basically for having this, guys, we will have two-way data binding, which is a set of square brackets. Inside this we will have a parentheses, which is, and here you will give that attribute ng model. Ng model is the directive, guys, which is available inside Angular, which supports two-way data binding. And here you will give the variable name. Let's suppose I give name here, and after this we will also display the value of name, the value of, or we can directly say print out name here by interpolation. So this is very simple, guys, very important to know. This is two-way data binding, and this is square brackets. Inside this we are having the parentheses, and then this is the directive name, which is ng model. And here inside our TypeScript file, guys, we just need to declare the name variable. That's all. Name is equal to any. That's all. We have declared the variable here, and now this directive, just see the magic of that. If I now run something here, you will see it automatically, it will be reflected back here in the upward direction. So it is automatically synchronized. The whatever I am writing here, it is reflected back. So it is called a two-way data binding. The HTML is synchronized to the TypeScript class component. So whatever we are writing is reflecting back. Live preview. So one more thing, guys, I need to basically apply a validation function. So let's suppose if I write Kane value here, a pop-up window will be appearing. It should say to me that this username is already taken. By the disadvantage of using this ng model directive, because you can't execute other code. So we can split this using another syntax, guys, event, which is called as ng model. I think this is let me see, this is, I think it is called as just wait, ng model change. Okay, value changed. So this needs to be same here. Okay, yeah, ng model will be the same, but we will have basically the second function here, which is called as ng model change. Ng model change. This is basically the event, guys, which will automatically trigger, and here you can initialize a function which is validate username, and here we will pass our event inside the argument. This will basically be the value, or we can simply write here username. We can pass the username, whatever username the user has written, and inside this, guys, we will simply define this function validate username and username any. And basically inside this, guys, we can check the value. If username double equal to Kane, we can simply have an alert statement. This username is already taken. That's all. So what will happen, guys? Property username does not exist. Just wait. Let me change this to username. So you can see, if I write the name Kane, you will now see automatically alert statement will be there. This username is already taken. So this is basically the validation function, guys, which is supported by two-way data binding. So if you're working with forms, if you want to validate the data which is written by the user, so this function you can trigger, which is ng model change. Ng model is for the two-way data binding, and this specific function is required if you want to execute a lot more code other than two-way data binding. So this function you can trigger validate username if you want to trigger more code. So this was a tutorial, guys, on various concepts that we show inside this video: interpolation, two-way data binding, validating the data inside your Angular forms, event binding. We have also seen event binding as well, which we saw inside whenever we how to trigger on-click event handlers to the buttons. So quite a things we learned. All the source code is given in the description of the video. We have written a complete blog post. You should definitely watch that video read that blog post as well. Thank you very much for watching this video.